You are now listening to the Insight Fantasy Sports Podcast.
Welcome all and welcome into the Insight NFL Podcast. We're into December. Week 13 is all but done. It's the first here, Monday. We've got one more game to close things out, the Giants and the Patriots tomorrow. Hopefully that's a nice, high-scoring, juicy affair for us here. What an absolute brutal week. I was very optimistic heading into the final last couple of games. Had a charity golf day today at work, so I'm only kind of rolling back into the house and rolling in with a fair few losses to my name too in that final slate. So you love to see that. It's a brutal sport we play, and looks like it's some low SuperCoach scores too for this week. Secko, you've got their proud Brock Bowers owner. I'm in that committee with you. That's the only good player I think I've had on my team this week. But how are you feeling after week 13?
Yeah, I never doubted Brock. I'm not sure if anyone, must have been hearing things when I was counting Brock all week. He's a superstar. Gino's great. No, it's one of those things. Tight end. Mav was spot on, and in hindsight, he's hit the nail on the head. Not a lot between those two top guys and potentially three top guys in their scoring and in their averages. And in any given week, they can pop up. But he's a good player, and that's why you want him, and he's a stud. But anyway, no, in general, SuperCoach struggled. Someone else on our pod tonight's done a hell of a lot better this week in SuperCoach, and on the back of a very strong DST that he may or may not have traded in a few weeks ago. But look, pretty pumped to get into it, dissect a bit of it, and see how we can get better for next week and the next 5.
Speaking of the sneaky DST, I thought for sure, Mav, that you would have had to have traded them out this week. That's why they went ballistic. But maybe the voodoo's over. You're rolling in. You are tracking to be the highest scorer out of the three of us. Well done. How are you feeling this week with your Seattle Seahawks little pod?
Yeah, feeling fantastic, mate. It's looking like I don't know what's a good score this week. I'm on track for about 535 is probably what I'm on track for. So, it's a very much been an up and down week with Primos. Well, I'm sure we'll go through it a bit later on. But yeah, 60 points out of the Seahawks against the undrafted rookie QB who threw 4 picks and just looked genuinely worse than McCarthy, which is hard to say these days. But all in all, I'll take the big 60. That's boosting me up something shocking, and it'll keep me saved from a few dog shit scores along the way.
I have to ask you guys with the Vikings quarterback situation. So Carson Wentz is out for the year. Disappointing. He was the best bet. JJ McCarthy, sadly enough, he's the second best option they have at the moment. At what point do Kevin O'Connell just laces up the boots? He used to be a quarterback back in the day. Surely he can't do any worse. He knows the playbook like the back of his head. All he needs to do is just give it to JJ and just create him some space. I mean, that man is just absolutely hurting on the sidelines, and he's hurting our SuperCoach teams. I definitely did not start him this week with the Monra DNP and Justin Jefferson 2 and Romadunzo 3 on the bench. You hate it. You absolutely hate to see it. Secko, with that Viking situation, is there any hope whatsoever for the remainder of the year for the Vikings receivers, Justin Jefferson in particular?
No, there's not. Unfortunately, there's not, because I was pretty sure they'd do everything they could not to put McCarthy back in there, but they don't really have a choice. I was actually looking today, seeing if there's any free agents, any decent free agents out there they could try and sign just to get them through the year with a bit of experience. And fair to say there's not. The best I could come up with was Taylor Heineke. So if you think that's an upgrade on Brosmer or McCarthy, it is. But I'm not sure if they'll bother signing to make that happen. So it's if it wasn't clear 2 weeks ago, it's clear now. Just cut bait with Jefferson, because as we can see, a DNP can happen and you can be stuck with his 2. It's just a nightmare.
It's almost like they needed to go trade for Jameis weeks and weeks ago. Jameis famous, he's a gunslinger. He's not worth a lot. But again, he's an upgrade over everything they've got currently, including Carson Wentz, who was their best QB at the time. So, when you've got an offense with Addison, Jefferson, Hawkinson, the defense is pretty good. The run game's pretty good. The offensive line needs a bit of work, but it's decent enough. Like Jameis could have won some games with them, I reckon, and he would have threw for 250, 280 passing yards, and at least gave him a chance to win.
They just need to keep that defense off the field for a little bit longer and give those guys a chance. It's a shame too because they run home for the Vikings, Washington week 14, Dallas, Giants, Detroit, and then Green Bay again. So these next 6 weeks is going to open things up for Justin Jefferson. But hey, Mav, I think you might need to keep your phone on loud, mate. You might get a call up for the Vikings at the back end of the year because they are in an absolute world of hurt. Other guys in a world of and to go along with
hang on, Mav's a place kicker. We all saw him at the Rams fan day. He can kick a field goal for him. They need one.
Yeah. If they need a kicker, I'm available.
I think if you can kick one from 90 yards out, that's probably what they need because they just cannot do anything at this point in time. And to go along with those, we've got a few injuries to cover too, which we absolutely hate to hear. Before we get into that, special shout out to our Thanksgiving giveaway winner. We did have a little giveaway up on Instagram for the Thanksgiving slate. Timmy V, 1918, guessed Mahomes with 61 as a top scorer, very close with 58. He was the closest there. So winning week for old Timmy. He also won the top score for the Insight League in week 12. So he'll get a couple standard squeeze 4-in-1s his way. So that's what we do here at Inside NFL. We're just the gift that keeps on giving. But no further ado, we will get into our injury updates before we close out the week. The one that hurt us the most in the Thanksgiving slate of games, Amon-Ra St. Brown, I believe it was an offensive lineman, fell on the back of his leg when he was making a block. Out for the game. Looks to be a low ankle injury. At first, we thought it was going to be multiple weeks. It did not look good whatsoever. He may miss this week. I've seen some reports he's going to try and play through it if he can. We know how tough Amon-Ra is. But even so, if he misses 1 week, that's way better than what we thought. Secko, how do you feel about the Amon-Ra instance there? Because I know you had him in a few spots to kick off your week 13.
Yeah, I got him in a few spots, and I was dreading a long-term injury because playoffs are right around the corner, so can't afford to have your studs out long-term. I hope he rests because in the couple of leagues I've got him, I'm in a good spot to make the playoffs already and the top. So he can rest a week. Not great for SuperCoach, which we're going to talk about, but yeah, like I'd rather. Unfortunately, it's a short week as well. I mean, it's not they played Thursday, so it's a normal week break, but all the other teams get a 10-day break. So if it had been 10 days, I reckon he would have pushed to play very comfortably. But the 7-day turnaround, he'll probably try and play, but he won't be full go, I don't think.
Very lucky with the DNP that he didn't lose any cash for us in SuperCoach. Hopefully, he had some nice, decent bench scores in wide receiver to pull you over the line. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the other big name here. He is dealing with a heel injury, did not return in a tight game. Cardinals have been eliminated from playoffs contention as well with this loss to the Bucks. Mav, with Marvin Harrison Jr., they've still got Jacoby out there. They're going to play him for the rest of the game, you think. But do you think they're going to tend on the side of caution with Marvin Harrison Jr., or do you think they want to kind of get him back out there and still give him some more reps, being the second year in the league so far?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, he needs more reps. That's A, but also, what's the point of risking long-term injury at the same time? So it's a bit of both. Like, what do you sort of put up there is a different story. But yeah, I mean, the injury was quite odd too. Not much really happened in the play. He caught a pass and limped off the field. Like, he caught it like he was running out of bounds and just sort of limped off. Like, there was really nothing to it, no contact. It was just movement, I suppose. It's just weird. But look, personally, I think they'll shut him down for the rest of the year. If they've already out of the contention, which they are, then there's probably no point playing him. Michael Wilson looks like a bit of a player, a bit of a revelation they found over the last few weeks. I've actually always liked Michael Wilson myself. I think he's always been they've seen him as a deep ball threat, but he's obviously a bit more than that now. So if he can sort of emerge out and dominate the next sort of few weeks and going into 2026 a happy wide receiver, then they might actually go places. They can get a QB upgrade along the way. So all in all, I think MHJ has probably played his final game for the year.
It hurts. It hurts to hear. And also, Secko, in turn with MHJ, Trey Benson, he was slated to return this week. They did sit him. Do you think it's a very similar instance as well with Marvin Harrison Jr.? There's no real point bringing him back. He's coming back from injury, hasn't played in 8 or so weeks. Do you think they'll look to shut him down as well as we close this thing out?
They probably should. Part of me thinks it's sort of both ways. I think in my head a little bit, they should, but it's not like he's a vet. Even neither's MHJ, but it's a brand new injury. This guy's coming back. He's rehabbed, been out for maybe 6 weeks. Joe Burrow's comments still sort of come through to me, and you're footballer, you play. This guy wants to get this job as well, so he's going to push to play if he can. He wants to make sure he cements his place as the number one back next year. So if what Mav says is right, they get a QB upgrade, 2 really good receivers, McBride, and then him. It's actually a really good offense all of a sudden. So I think he'll want to push his claim and make sure he tosses everyone out. So I think he'll play as soon as this week coming up with a bit of luck. And I think that offense is a lot better just with that single guy who can do both things well rather than having to sort of Bam Knight in, out, DiMiccato, Carter. Like it's choppy and changing. It looks a bit gross when you're watching it. So yeah, I think they'll push for him to play, but I understand shutting him down in the same way that Harrison probably will be for the last 5 weeks.
I actually think if Benson does sit for the remainder of the year, it's the worst thing that happened to his career. I think he has to come out and play. James Conner's now hitting 30 years old, going into next year. A lot of moles in his body, a lot of injury history along the way. So if Trey Benson balls out for the remainder of the year, they probably go down the Benson path for next year as he's the starter. So he's got a lot to prove for the rest of the year, I reckon, and he has to push the play at least a few games because there's an opportunity here. He could be the RB1 for the future. He just needs to prove it.
Let's hope the Cardinals can do something right. We haven't seen Benson getting a full starting workload very much in the NFL so far. Parker Washington for the Jacksonville Jags, wide receiver dealing with a hip injury, exited in the second quarter and did not return. Jacoby Myers benefited from this in a big way with 6 for 90 and a score. Aaron Jones in the Vikings game appeared to re-injure his AC joint there in his shoulder. He did it a few weeks ago in week 9 and he did play through. So one to monitor with the practice reports. Sauce Gardner, defensive player on here, dealing with a calf injury, did not play the back end. It's going to be great for the Jags next week who take on the Colts and then also Jason the following week when they face Seattle. Secko, how do you feel about the Sauce Gardner injury? Do you think he's probably done for the year or at least probably the next 3 or 4 weeks at this point?
Yeah, it didn't look good. I think we should prepare for long term with him at least. They do have playoff aspirations as well. So I think the Colts will want to keep him, make sure he's 100% when he's back. And they were doing it right before they got him, right? So they weren't, they must have some sort of cover there because they didn't ship out a cornerback when they acquired him at the deadline. It's just one of those things. It looks like I saw it and I had thoughts it was an Achilles. The way he sort of like he propped, like you've seen Achilles done, and they just sort of like look like they're shot from the stands, and that's sort of what it looked like. So it doesn't look like that's the case anymore. That was the concern from some people on the internet as well when it happened, but it looks like a calf, but in a walking boot makes me think it's more likely a high ankle into a calf situation. I don't really know walking boots for calves too often, so we'll see what happens. We'll hear more about it, but it is good for opposing wide receivers they're facing next at least 2 weeks, maybe 3, and maybe the rest of the season. We'll see.
One to monitor over the next couple of days for sure when the rest of the injury reports come out. Frank Ragnow, center or retired center for the Lions from last year. He tried to come back. That was a big story on Thursday when we went through the show. Failed his physical. I believe there was a hamstring strain. He will not return. His career is most likely done for that, which is, you hate to see it. He was a top 5 center in his heyday when he was playing and healthy. That will do things here for the injuries. We will have more updates on this probably on Thursday night show as we close things out and look forward to week 14 with our primer. Heroes and Heartbreakers, gents for SuperCoach. There was plenty this week. We'll kick things off with quarterback. Patrick Mahomes on the Thanksgiving slate did save the day for a lot of managers out there. I was very lucky. I was looking at bringing in Lamar this week. I was like, oh, I don't mind Mahomes. I'll run that matchup. What an absolute flip that would have been. He had 58 points on that Thanksgiving game. Jordan Love, 50 points as well on that Thanksgiving slate. Bryce Young is probably the biggest name to bring up here. And I will throw to you, Secko, and Mav, we'll head to you for the fourth guy, purely because, Secko, Bryce Young, you put your Rams to the sword in this game. What do you have to say about this one?
I did. I feel like I was about to say it on Thursday that this is a real danger game, but I think in the intro to this game on Thursday, Mel, you said not much to mention here. This is a bit of a walkover in the making. I didn't want to doom and gloom it because last time we did that, I think we lost as well. So I try to stay quiet, but Bryce Young's good at home. He's shown that a number of times already this year that something sort of flips when he gets to sleep in his own bed on Saturday night, it seems, and yeah, he's done it again. What's he had? I'm trying to find his scores. Oh, he had a 38 at home, 25, 25. So he's had a few good games, but he's actually played. But he hasn't traditionally scored well in fantasy when he plays well as well, which is one of those things. This is by far his best score. Was it 3? It must have been 3 touchdowns to get to that, at least. And they've just, they just, yeah, you said they beat him down. Like it was weird. It's a danger game. I'll say it a million times more. Teams that have to travel from coast to coast always seem to come out sluggish. Watch for it because it doesn't matter what the records are or what they've done before. It just seems to be a real, and the true ones are the West Coast, like the actual West Coast teams, the LA's, San Fran, and Seattle's going to the pure East Coast. It's just something happens every time it seems. They just come out really sluggish and can't work it. So, and that's both sides of the ball. In this case, the Rams allowing Bryce Young to put up 31, I think it was. It's a big number for the Panthers with their offense at the moment. But good on him. He's gone up 2.6 mil. So not an option for SuperCoach, but if someone did have him, he's finally come through.
Yeah, 3 touchdowns, just over 200 passing yards and 20 rushing yards on the ground for Bryce Young. Massive upset win on the week, and another upset win for the quarterback that's finished on 4th on this list. Dak Prescott taking down the Chiefs in that Thanksgiving game. So we had a couple. That was a massive game for us in fantasy and SuperCoach. We absolutely loved it. It provided the goods. Even better with the Chiefs getting handed a loss. Mav, Dak Prescott, 43 points. With the disappointing weeks of Lamar, is Dak someone that you're looking to pivot to close out the season in SuperCoach, perhaps?
Yeah, he's really coming in contention. He really is. Now that the Cowboys' season's probably on the line, he's playing. Well, he has to play good. The offense is really good too. So, Javonte Williams is starting to falter a little bit now, and Dak's elevating his game a little bit along the way. So, while I've got you guys, what's an average score for a QB in this game? Give me an average score.
40.
36.
What was that? 36 and 40?
Yep.
All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7 games that Dak has had this year over 40 points. So the remaining schedule is Detroit, Minnesota, Chargers, Washington, the Giants. Not too bad schedule. So he currently sits at the QB 8. This is before the averages have updated on SuperCoach. Above him is Jacoby Brissett, Jameis Winston, and you can probably put Jackson Dart in that. So he's really like a borderline top 5 option in this format. So, the schedule home's quite nice. We did Primo start to falter a little bit in terms of Josh Allen. If you don't have him, he scored 34 points today. We'll mention him a bit later on. Lamar has been a bit average the last few weeks when he's been back from injury. Jalen Hurts hasn't been that great. So then there's just Dak. Dak is another premium option. He's $22 million. And he's balling with Pickens, CD. He's balling, man.
He's the third most expensive quarterback after the changes of this week as well. So he's doing it, and he's not that much more than anyone else. So yeah, mate, it's a great call.
So I am seriously. I'm a Drake May owner. Okay, so I've got Drake May. He's on week 14 bye. I'm looking for an option, right? I can't trust Lamar despite him being dirt cheap next week. I can't really. Mahomes is there. I suppose he's probably the next best. I'll have to check his remaining schedule just to make sure they're in that window. They have to win out as well. So Kansas actually, and Mahomes is a good option because they just have to win. And same with Dak, the same category. They need to win out too. So there's a lot to play there for those two players. So if you're looking for a trading option over the next few weeks, I think Dak and Mahomes obviously is a very good option, despite Lamar. He still has to win out too, might I add, but he hasn't. The game hasn't been that good. He's had some falters along the way with his own receiving core letting him down. But if we're looking for a pod here, Dak is a genuine pod. No one really has him around. 2.9% of owners have him, so I really do think that he's he can always put him in that category at the moment. He really can.
Oh, faithful Dak with that wide receiver pairing of CD Lamb and George Pickens, arguably one of the best duos in the league at the moment. Pickens has just been absolutely playing out of his skin. Trevor Lawrence is the 5th quarterback to round out this group, also with 43 points. A couple of honorable mentions. Jacoby Brissett, he's just keeps getting it done week in, week out. Tyrod Taylor putting up 41 points as well and nuked me in a couple of fantasy leagues this week, which I definitely was not expecting as we closed out that slate there. Guys, we may as well just jump straight into running backs there. Quarterbacks, we've got, good to see Mahomes and Dak back in there. Going to give us some nice options to talk over on Wednesday night's trade talk show. In terms for running backs, Bijan topped the list for us this week. 55 points. He's back. We needed him to produce for us once again. He's going to be up over 20 million. He's going to go up 2 million after this effort. So hopefully you brought him in if you didn't have him already in a week or two ago. DeAndre Swift, 40 points. Kamani Vidal, 40 points. Marion Hampton, there was hope that he might have started this week. We're probably trending more so on the side. It was genuine 50-50, but Vidal just absolutely took over. Very similar. He would have put a lot of people to the sword this week in traditional fantasy. Secko, how do you feel about Kamani Vidal? And do you think Hampton, can he slot straight back in here once he is on board and healthy, ready to go?
I wasn't a fan of it. I faced him in 2 leagues that I was favourite going into that later slate, and I left it, virtually a 0% chance of winning back on the back of Fidel, and that one touchdown was the pivot point. I also don't like it as a Hampton owner everywhere. I really wanted him to shit the bed this week and be an easy benching for Harbaugh. I feel like he's going to play funny buggers now, and split carries, which is unfortunate, and I just don't like it in general because he profiled to be a undersized gadget guy, and now he's proven that he can do it. So I mean, if you've got him in SuperCoach, it's great. It's a great score. A lot of people got off him because he dropped a fair bit of cash, but he's back up over 10 mil. You can move him because he's great. He's played well. He did that green light, red light, green light thing where he every second week was really good. He had a bye last week, so he's good week transferred over, missed the bye. And then Hampton will be back, so it'll be a timeshare next week. So if you've got him, trade him. That 11 mil, that extra 1.3 mil is a gift. And the score, hopefully, had him on field, but I doubt you would have. But yeah, I hope Hampton's back and then can go 2 weeks of showing that he's just much better at the game of football, and come week 16 be ready to get into all my teams.
And the Chargers, they do have Philly next week and then Kansas City the week after that. So it will be tough, even if Hampton does get rolled back into there.
Possibly with no Herbert too.
That is another one to monitor.
We didn't talk about that. We didn't talk about that because I don't know. We didn't hear anything yet, but yeah.
Hopefully not. It was that hand injury, right? He was dealing with that finger at the back end there. So, yeah, one to monitor.
Surgery.
Hate to hear that.
Going in for surgery on his non-throwing hand. The expectation is that he's right for next weekend, but he may only miss a week if anything. So it's not a long-term injury, but it means the run game next week will be monstrous.
Hey, fingers crossed he's back. Oh, Herbert, he won't be able to cross him, but oh well, we will. 4th coming up here on this list for the running backs, Devon Achane. I tried to mix them both there together. 38 points. He's just been so safe, super consistent. This has pretty much been his floor, these mid-30 areas for the last few weeks. Super safe. He's going to go up nearly 2 million next week. Kyle Monongai, 38 points as well. Very, very surprising in that game. They rolled over the Eagles on the ground. Chuba, 38 points. It's probably another topic here too, Jensen, Mav. With Chuba Hubbard, how do you feel about that Carolina Panthers backfield situation? Do you kind of think they're just going to roll with the hot hand? We had Rico Dowdle producing so well for a few weeks. Now Chuba's getting more integrated back into the offense. He looked much better than Rico today, but how do you see that playing out moving forward?
Yeah, I've always thought that they might run a bit of a committee. Depending on who has the hot hand, might get them more touches in that given week. Obviously, Rico's had his games and Chuba's had his games as well. So, all in all, I think it's probably a good problem to have if you're a Panthers coach. But as a fantasy owner, it's obviously awful to see. You want one player getting all the work or not. So, yeah, for a fantasy nightmare for us, it's impossible. But yeah, from a neutral perspective, for an NFL sense of the game, and it's fantastic, I suppose. But look, I also want to mention James Cook, boys, as well. He was on 33 points in today. A lot of negative energy has come over James Cook over the last sort of month or so, but he's probably the most consistent, right? He doesn't score monster scores. He doesn't score really shit scores. He just does enough. And I think that SuperCoach teams need a bit of consistency in their teams as well. And James does provide that as well. A bit of a safety blanket, a safe floor. And he does have some high upside too, don't get me wrong. He has had those big games, but all in all, generally pretty safe. Doesn't really score that poorly.
Yeah, 35 touches today for James Cook. The Bills need him badly because they do not have any pass catches that are viable without Dalton Kincaid there. Shakir had a woeful game. Brandon Cook's getting a little look in there. Keon Coleman, after a couple of games of being a healthy scratch, catches a touchdown. Of course, you just can't pick it. Derrick Henry also had 33 points to round out that one as well. So he's been very solid, has the Bengals up again in 2 weeks. I had a list here for you, Secko. Anyone here that really sticks out to be a bit of a surprise, or all pretty stock standard moving forward?
No surprises. It's a good little thought on this. So, yeah, 3 of those with Vidal next week going into a committee, we think. And 3 of those guys are in committees or going to go into committees. It just shows that. I think I looked at earlier today. I think 12 of the 22 teams that played today, the second running back had at least 32% of the touches. So most teams are running with a committee approach in some capacity. Like Monongai and Swift both had big days. Chuba Hubbard and Kenneth Walker both had a heap of carries. Chuba and Rico both had, I think, over 15 carries. So it's happening more and more. It doesn't mean these guys are not going to just have a game, but it makes it hard to pick. So the surprises there are obviously both Bears against the Eagles running backs having good games. And it probably does lead to, who'd you say was playing Philly next week? Was it the Bills or? If it was,
Chargers, I think.
Yeah, sorry, that's
Philly.
Yeah, so then, Vidal and with no Herbert potentially, Vidal and Hampton could both go huge. So it's becoming more normal, which we don't like for fantasy usually, but it just goes to show you that they're both doing lots of work. Generally, it can be a good thing because they're usually different looks and there's usually some out of the backfield work as well. You can lean your hat on, but no, it's Bijan back is the best thing ever. He's had 255 to the last 3, with a 30 something I think in between there. So he's even with Cousins there and London out, it's not really hurting him too much. So hopefully he keeps that up because he's too good a player to be that little lull that he had for a few weeks.
Algier pinched a touchdown from him away too in this game as well, so it could have been even more. He just keeps on doing it. Wide receivers topping off the list. AJ Brown with 60 points. Mav, what an absolute roller coaster it's been with AJ Brown this year. I still remember he was one of your first rage trades out. 42 last week, 60 this week. He's been the most consistent player. I know it's only a short week sample, but nothing else on offense is really clicking for this Eagles teams over the past couple of weeks. Do you think this continues moving forward with AJ Brown, or is he could be a sneaky pod that we bring up on Wednesday's show? How do you feel about him looking forward to week 14?
It's a good question you asked there. Now, if you're a Justin Jefferson owner, obviously you think about it, wouldn't you? I mean, we wouldn't spend a lot of money to get the AJ Brown. You had to spend some, but not a lot, maybe $3-4 million, give or take. That might be worth it. Unfortunately, well, not really. Unfortunately, fortunately, should I say, the Eagles in a very similar spot as the Chiefs, Cowboys, etc. They still have a lot to play for. If they drop any games, they're suddenly under risk of not making the playoffs. So I truly believe that they're going to have to start playing well sooner rather than later. Otherwise, they're bouncing home for the remainder of the year. So their remaining schedule is Chargers, Vegas, Washington, Buffalo, Washington. So not a bad end of year schedule. But yeah, he's seriously, last few weeks been quite good. It's only 2 weeks though. He's only had 3 good weeks this season. So unless that tide is slowly turning it back to AJ Brown, I still think he's a better player than Justin Jefferson at the moment, just due to his position that just Jefferson's in. So maybe he's a trading option. Maybe he is.
Very high upside weeks. Rashid Rice, super solid at number 2 here with 50 points there. Massive red zone threat. Dontavian Wicks, 49 points here. Big surprising one. That's just a blip in the radar for this week. Don't look to bring him in moving forward. Jamison Williams, though, however, 46 points. He's going to be jumping up 2.3 million. Secko, we were hurt and let down by the Amon-Ra injury, but things are going to open up for Jamo if Amon-Ra misses any time. How do you feel about him as a potential sneak in, given week 14 is just coming up? Oh, you're muted there, Secko.
Sorry, definitely watch this space for Amon-Ra if he's out, but they get the Cowboys. I know the Cowboys aren't as bad as they had been earlier in the season as a defense. They're always sort of highlighted on the schedule, but they're a little bit better than they were. Having said that, it's at home. It's Jared Goff without Amon-Ra and without Laporta. It just profiles for a lot of good JMO looks. So yeah, if he's out, he's in that same mold as upgrading Justin Jefferson. It's going to cost $6 million, $6 and a bit mil, I think. It's getting a bit XT after you're missing out on that massive price rise and copying a dump. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go Amon-Ra to JMO, for example, because it's only probably going to be 1 week. But if you're looking for a bit of a pod at that sort of that cheaper price than some of the others, he's been great 2 weeks in a row. He's going to be great again with every likelihood. So he's definitely on the radar, but definitely a great play in traditional fantasy next week. I think regardless of Amon-Ra, because I think he'll be limited if he plays, but yeah, it's good to see him back because he had a real lean patch. He's too good a player for that.
Coming off a donut, going straight into 46, you love to see it. CeeDee Lamb, 41 points. This is what we need from him week in, week out. Hopefully he can keep producing moving forward. AD Mitchell is also jumping up in this list. He had 40 points. Who could have saw that one coming there for the Jets and with Tyrod Taylor leading the ship? Mav, one question I have to ask you, though, because Devontae Adams had 39 points in this week as well. Just keep scoring touchdowns for fun. The past 3 weeks, he's been averaging just under 4 more points than Puka Nacua. Puka or Devontae rest of season if you had to pick for SuperCoach between these two?
Probably Puka. I mean, look, you can't deny the fact that Devontae's catching touchdowns every week and multiple too, might I add. So, look, Puka's catch today was goddamn nice, though. The one-handed grab in under pressure, that was sexy. But no, Devontae, they go hand in hand, these two players, man. They really do. So if you probably can't go wrong with either or at this point in time, especially with the way Stafford's been playing as well. He's just been slinging it down their throats and they've been reaping the rewards. So, look, if I had to pick, though, I would go Puka. He's got the bigger upside. He'll have more catches in a game. If he can add a touchdown to his stat line too, then he's absolutely balling. So, yeah, the ceiling is far higher than Devontae Adams on Puka Nacua if we're going to compare.
Looking at it too, Devontae's actually worth more than Puka and Secko. I've got to ask you the same question, being the Rams fan here. Is it close one between Devontae and Puka? Like, should we be thinking about it a little bit closer than what potentially what it did seem like to start off the year?
Yeah, it is, and If it was even money, it's very close. Puka's going to be $1.5 million cheaper. If you're buying one this week, I just can't see a world that you'd fade him. Mav's points were perfect. Puka's just going to get a lot more. He's a lot more consistent. I still think he has the higher ceiling, which sounds crazy. But all Adams does, and I love him as a fan. I love that we got him. But all he does is scores touchdowns. If they go away, you're probably going to be stuck holding an 8 or a 10 or God knows what. So, um, I mean, he's the eighth highest touchdown scorer of all time for a reason. It's just you can't bank. We've been playing fantasy for a long time. You can't bank on touchdowns week in, week out. It just doesn't work that way. So in a game like this, I think it's a lot smarter to go with Puka if you're choosing between the two. But I don't blame you as a pod. Um, you know, it's great to watch him and hope it continues for the next 5 weeks.
Yeah, it's hard to argue there with both of those Rams players. Devontae's got 14 touchdowns too on the year, which is just absolutely obscene. Tight ends kicking things off with a proud Brock Bowers owner in the middle. 40 points. He's going to go up 200K. Trey McBride, 36 points as well. So he's just still very tried and true. Mav, for these two here, we didn't see Kittle in the top 5 this week. They had a bit of a very tough game against Cleveland in Cleveland. Those three, still very clear that it's Bowers, McBride, and Kittle in the top 3 for you rest of season?
It is, yeah, it is. And I do own Bowers and McBride, so happy with that. But no, I do think it is those 3 for the remainder of the year. There's a big gap between the 4th best as well, who's probably Kelsey, I suppose. I think maybe he's probably the 4th best. So yeah, no, I yeah, 100%. So yeah, I mean, Zach Ertz is still heavily involved in the Commanders' offense as well. That's pretty gross to say in 2025, but it's true. But no, it's Bowers, McBride, Kittle, Daylight, Kelsey, Daylight, and then pick your next best.
Next best. Okay, let me circle back to that, Mav. We've got Travis Kelce. He was 3rd.
Don't let him.
Travis Kelce was 3rd. He had 26 points. He's put up some very consistent scores the last couple of weeks as well. There, Brenton Strange, after coming back from injury, he's doing it as well, scoring a touchdown. Time to circle back, Mav, here. We've got number 5 on the week. 23 points, very solid for the tight end position. You're pretty happy with that. Kyle Pitts. How far of a gap is there between Kyle Pitts and those top 3? Is it daylight? Is it a couple of Christmases? Is it, what's kind of the range there between Kyle Pitts and those other studs?
Well, mate, I'm just going to go a couple of positions down. Number 7 was Cole Kmet, and number 8 was Evan Engram. So he's looped into that little area there. So yeah, daylight, mate. Daylight and more daylight.
I was hoping to just leave those guys out and just make it seem as if Pitts was just an absolute stud there this week. Secko, with these tight ends here, I know you've kind of been dealing with the conundrum of Bowers over McBride, but Bowers, if he rest of season scores more than McBride and the Cardinals don't have anything to play for, there could be a little bit of a shift at the back end. But how do you feel about this tight end room throughout week 13?
Yeah, I'm still very, very confident that McBride beats Bowers by a very healthy margin. And it's mostly because they have this Bowers has the Broncos, Eagles, Texans next 3 weeks, Giants, little let off, and then Kansas City to finish. Like that, yeah, that's not fun reading. I wish I had looked ahead at that when I made the decision just quietly. Because it's just tough for anyone. And I mean it is still Geno Smith. I'm surprised that in 2025 and week 13 we're saying that Jacoby Brissett is a million times better than Geno Smith, but he is. It's clear for everyone to see. There's no shock in saying that, and so yeah, I just trust that a little bit more. They've got Cincinnati in week 17 as well, Trey McBride. So look ahead to your championship matches in normal fantasy and hope that you're avoiding him because he could have legitimately 80 points against that defense, but. Look, yeah, it's those two clearly for me as well. I've got Kittle and Bowers I'm happy enough with that. I'm not going to be trading, especially with McBride nearing $20 million, which is phenomenal. And I'm with Mav. Kelsey is clear fourth with a bit of a gap from the other two and then other three. And then there's no one fifth. Like, in my opinion, there's no point ranking a fifth because there's no one worth having in that space.
And I do have to mention, we did have Zach Ertz putting up 10 for 106 in the final game of today, accounting to 31 SuperCoach points. So he's also in this list for the week. Kickers, we will speed run through these guys. Evan McPherson, if you had him, only 616 people did, putting up a whopping 48. Jason Myers for the Seahawks has been super consistent lately, 38 points for him. Riley Patterson for the Dolphins, 28 points up against the Saints. They were able to do anything they wanted to in that game. Brendan Aubrey, 24 points. You like to see it. And Nick Folk rounding out the top 5 with 22 and a walk-off game winner for the Jets too. So Raheem Morris cops another loss, the back end for the Falcons to the Jets. He's probably out the door within the next couple of weeks, you'd think. They don't have their first-round pick either for next year, which they so gracefully gave to the Rams. Mav, I know you love talking about kickers, so we'll just throw it to you here. Again, is there really anything to touch on? Because, I mean, Evan McPherson, he hasn't really given you anything this whole year until he puts up a massive 48 in this week. Very, very hard to pick any given week when it comes to these kickers.
Yeah, it is. And if we're talking, I'm looking ahead to our Wednesday show, our trade-in show. Be very ballsy trading in a kicker at week 14 unless you've got the trades up your sleeve. So, generally speaking, you might have someone to buy. You might have a perfect team, perfect lineup. You might not have any injuries. You might have you're sitting on 8 trades. You've got premiums. You might look at it, but the average person, generally speaking, will not have the trades or the ability to trade kickers. So, all in all, mate, if you have a chance to get Evan McPherson at $10.4 million, who will go up in price, he's got Joe Burrow now, so the offense will be moving the ball and you'll have a lot of opportunities to kick field goals for the remainder of the year because they, again, have got a lot to play for as well and they have to go near on perfect to make the playoffs. So, if you've got enough money for him, he wouldn't be a bad one to trade in if you can get him in at some point.
And defenses, our heroes of the week in this position. It's a hard one to pick, but not for Mav. He's got the Seahawks. After riding with them the last 2 weeks, they put up 4, 8, and then now 60. Max Brosma, absolutely delicious in that matchup in his first start in the NFL. Buffalo. Who do they have next week?
Kirk Cousins.
Oh, gee.
You know they got
Kirk
the week
Cousins.
after? Maybe get Danny Dimesless Indiana Colts.
Oh, yeah. He's dealing with a fractured fibula or something like that. How can he even? He's a tough guy playing through that.
We'll see how he goes.
So
anyway, the Seahawks are balling. They've been pretty good all year. Couple of off weeks is when I trade them in, but outside of that, looking pretty good.
Yeah, a massive 60, and that's split in half for our next best here in this position. Bills at 30. The Jags and the Bengals both put up 28. Panthers putting up 26 against the Rams, which is just gobsmacking. And then the 49ers putting up 22 against the Cleveland Browns, which is a pretty nice matchup up against Shador. Heartbreakers for the week. We might jump straight into that. Oh, no, you go, Secko.
Before we go in, the 49ers were probably the worst defense. I think they bottomed out. They lost absolutely everything. Last 3 weeks, they've been double digits. They're starting to come around just as a very frustrated owner who's had to deal with their shit all year. It's about time they've actually put it together.
Hopefully a sign of better things to come for the rest of the year for the Niners. Heartbreakers, guys that have absolutely let us down this week in a massive way. And there is no other heartbreaker that can top this list like Lamar Jackson does in the quarterback position. 14 points in prime time up against an absolute smash spot that we thought of in the Cincinnati Bengals. He's going to lose $3.2 million come time this time tomorrow. He's lost $13 million in total since his starting price, an absolute crater these last few weeks. I'm probably a little bit stupid. I'm still very optimistic in Lamar moving forward. I think the process is there. His receivers did not do him any favors in this game, and there was plenty of points left on the table. We'll run through a panic meter too for these guys, gents. And Mav, I'll throw it to you. Lamar Jackson, how are you feeling about him in a panic meter of 1 to 10? 1, you're not worried whatsoever. 10, you're absolutely mortified. You need to get rid of him right now. Where do you sit on that for Lamar moving forward?
I'm probably at a solid 6, so slightly above. You mentioned their wide receivers, and don't get me wrong, there was some awful mistakes along the lines there, but it's also not going to get any better. These guys, you know, Mark Andrews is past his prime. Zay Flowers loves the Houdini act. Devontae, what's his name? DeAndre Hopkins is past his prime as well. There's just a lot of pass there. They've got Rashad Bateman. I don't know if he's even active anymore, but there's just a lot of pass there that they're holding in that category. So if he's not doing it on his legs, it's a solid 6 for me. And look, he only had 27 rushing yards, which is again not really Lamar Jackson-esque that we know of, in 6 attempts as well. So there's obviously something wrong there, that he's had to use his arms a lot more versus his legs. Obviously, he's not 100% healthy, and we know that he's playing through injury. If the season was done today, I'm sure he'd go into some sort of surgery to clean himself up a little bit. But yeah, there is a solid 6 for mine for panic rating.
And I don't want to make excuses for Lamar. Like, yes, the receivers didn't help him out, but he didn't help himself out either. An interception in this game, 2 fumbles lost, could not convert in crucial points. Secko, same thing for you with Lamar at a price of 17 million heading into week 14. Super inviting. I've got to make the decision this week. Mahomes up against the Texans. If I trade him out for Lamar, I'll probably make 7 million there that I could use down the back end stretch of the year. How are you kind of sitting with Lamar in that 1 to 10 panic meter rating? How do you feel about him moving forward?
Yeah, look, I'm probably an idiot, and I'm sure I know I am. It's probably a 3 at most for me, and there's a few reasons for it. He's not fit. He's not fit he wasn't fit as of Thursday. It's clear to see that. Um, I'm very hopeful that a 10-day break can do a lot to fix that leg. Um, I watched that whole. I mean, we all watched it. It was prime time. It was prime time Thanksgiving. If the likely thing doesn't happen and Zay Flowers, that offensive pass interference was a bit ticky-tack. It wasn't really there, but he didn't have to do it. He would have beat him anyway. And Devontae Walker dropped a 50-yarder straight through his hands, unmanned. Those together, he gets about 38. We're not having this conversation if those things that he did, like he didn't cause any of those, right? They all happen. He has 38 points this week, and no one's really talking about how it's a nightmare, right? So that's my theory around it. I'm probably an idiot. I think 10 days makes him run a lot more. He's at home again against Pittsburgh. He loves playing Pittsburgh. Then he gets the Bengals again, fit, when they have to win. I think them having to win is a big difference as well. I think they thought they were going to steamroll the Bengals and then got a little bit caught out. They have to win every game. I'm just a little bit more bullish than I'm not saying trade him in. I'm not giving you the green light because I'll cop it all week. But at 17 mil, like you could do a lot worse point per dollar from now on. That's just my strong feeling, and I'm probably going to be wrong. He'll probably stick around that mid-20s and struggle because he's not running. But if he's fit, he's a premium. He's a premium. So let's hope he is in 10 days after the last game.
I'll be there for the ride. I'll be strapping in. I think I will be bringing in Lamar this week. It's an absolute suck of a pain, but has to be brighter days ahead with that 10-day turnaround. That's enough for me to get things moving. Caleb Williams, 20 points. He did let us down this week as well. Didn't really need him in this game against the Eagles. It was purely just their running backs putting up 250 yards together on the ground. Justin Herbert and Matt Stafford both putting up 27 points. Again, disappointing. Didn't nuke you a week, but definitely didn't help. Mav, how are you feeling about these two guys? Is there one that you're more so worried about other than the other? I know Herbert's dealing with that injury, so of course that's there. But injury aside, is there one person that you're not interested in whatsoever as we close things out?
I mean, look, definitely Stafford over Herbert. That's probably not close. Stafford had I suppose, one bad week over the course of a year, so that happens. But by bad, he's had 27 points. So it's not like he's had like a 10 points or 15 points. At 27, it is what it is, I suppose. So definitely prefer Stafford over Herbert, and I'm definitely more concerned about Herbert moving forward, obviously with the injury and the general play. I think he's averaging 31 points over the last 3 weeks, and again, that was actually his score of 27 was underneath his 3-round average. So yeah, definitely trending on the in a negative aspect of fantasy football at the moment. So yeah, quite a concern if you do own him.
Running backs, heartbreakers for the week. Travis Etienne putting up 8 points. Couldn't do anything against the Titans. I think Tootin had a touchdown too in that game, taking it away from him. Josh Jacobs coming back from injury up against the Lions, putting up 18 points. Believe he got stuffed within the end zone too in that game off memory, so it could have been a much better week for him. Jahmyr Gibbs coming back down to earth after a monster week last week, only putting up 19 points. Secko, are you worried about Gibbs or Jacobs for the rest of season and moving forward, or is this just you can kind of throw it away and look forward to the week ahead?
Yeah, I think you can throw it away. I mean, Gibbs is a locked and loaded, best option, top 4 option in my opinion. We saw it last week. It's hard to ignore, and I think with the injuries there, it becomes even more relevant with game plan going into next week against Dallas. So I think he's a potential VC option on Thursday Night Football, in my opinion. Jacobs is a little bit. I'm a bit more concerned because I still think he's carrying a bit from the injury, and I think LaFleur is going to mix in Wilson more than he did earlier in the year, and than we'd like to see. But there is other guys who have emerged in these last few weeks, especially when Jacobs has been out, who's sort of making Jacobs less of a less up there in the priority list. Mav mentioned Cook. I think he's definitely one. Achan we mentioned before is 100% one. So he's sort of in that sort of next lot down, probably in my estimations. But still, if you've got him, you're not moving him, he's not a problem. He can still have big games. I think their run's not too bad from memory as well over the next little period. They got Detroit, and then they got Chicago, Denver, then Chicago again, and Baltimore. So their run's okay. I think they still have to use him a lot. They still haven't got great weapons. Love had one good game. He's probably going to have another one next week. That's sort of how it goes. So I think, Jacobs and Gibbs, if you've got them, be fine with it. But yeah, obviously, if you've got a bunch of trades and a heap of cash, you can move Jacobs to an Achan or a Cook. I think they're both above him at the moment.
Genty also a disappointing week, 18 points for him. Can't do too much on that offense with the Raiders. They are just woeful inside and out. Saquon Barkley, 11 points. He has lost 11.2 million on the season. The fall from grace just is night and day with him, putting up near historic year last year to now. That massive workload last year is really weighing a toll on him. Just this Eagles offense as a whole, Kevin Batula, everybody in Philly wants his head. You can see it there whenever they're playing there in Philly. How do you think this one will play out, Mav? Are you worried about Barkley rest of season? I mean, this Eagles offense as a whole, it just seems like they don't know what they're doing.
Mate, I'm not worried in week 13, man. I was worried in probably week 6. I was kind of worried. So it's progressively got worse as the season got along. If I was worried in week 6, it was averaging 25.7 points per game. Then it's still the same. So it's literally the same. So well, it's probably less now. Actually, it's probably 24. So yeah, I'm seriously concerned. Zero interest in bringing him in. Again, Chargers, Vegas, Washington, Buffalo, Washington, the remaining schedule. I'd fully expect Jalen Hurts to be the one scoring rushing touchdowns over Saquon Barkley at this point in time. Yeah, it looks like he's really hit a wall at the moment, and who knows if he can get out of it. He's going to be probably dirt cheap next year, so hopefully he has a horrible end of the year, and I might bring him in as a cheap option next year, a mid-range option possibly to start off with, and take the risk on him. So I hope he has a horrible ending to the year.
Yeah, absolutely hate to hear it. I'm still maybe just stupid, I guess. I'm still optimistic, holding out hope for Saquon Barkley. given the player he is. I know they are dealing with a few injuries on that offensive line, but the run home in the snow, again, sorry to bring it up against Secko, but I still just remember that run against the Rams in the snow just to endure guys' years. When it snows, these running backs, they come out and perform better. Just ask the Yeti, Derrick Henry there. Wide receivers, Heartbreakers, we touched on Justin Jefferson. He put up 2 points this week. He's down to just over 10 million. Cannot do anything with him. You can't really trade him out at this point because he's not worth anything. Romadunze is in a very similar boat. He's had a massive fall over the last few weeks. Still looks to be the number one receiver on that team, but they just don't really need to use him to win. Loveland's been emerging. Luther Burton's been getting some more work. DJ Moore's been having a couple of weeks here and there. Michael Pittman for the Colts putting up 4 points. He's lost 2 million this week. Again, very tough matchup. Probably the one that sticks out the most, and a guy that was probably flying too close to the sun for the first 12 weeks of the year. Jackson Smith and Jigba putting up 6 points, absolutely nuking your hopes of top scoring in SuperCoach this week if you did have him. Secko, how do you feel about JSN moving forward? Are you worried whatsoever, or you can just throw this game out too?
No. If you're worried about him, you should be worried about every single player. You just can't. It's one of those things. The Vikings had very little chance of winning this game. They knew that from when they soft benched McCarthy through till 1 p.m. Sunday. So they had to do something to try and stay in the game and hope for some luck, maybe on the ground or some other way, or Brosnan wasn't going to be completely useless. And the only way to do that was to just put everything into JSN. It was pretty clear. They have a really good Brian Flores, probably one of the best, most credentialed defensive coordinators in the league, if not the most. He's in the top handful. So you trust him to put together a pretty good game plan if that's the brief from KOC to make sure that they shut him down. And that's what it was. He had 3 targets. They were all sort of double coverage, blanket coverage, just trying to get him involved. And then he got 2 catches late to get any points. He's almost a DMP for a lot of this game. But that's just what they did. And unfortunately, the Seahawks done it a few times this year. And fortunately, JSN scored in the first quarter a lot. But the game's been over during the second quarter. They know they're not going to lose. The defense is too good to allow a multi-score comeback. And they just control it. And it's Charbonnet and it's Walker. And that's sort of what they do. And Darnold, the only way they could lose a game is to put it in Darnold's hands too much, I think, is the way that McDonald looks at it. So he's just sort of, if he doesn't have impact early in those games, when they're playing no one, it's hard to score. And that's what's happened. But you can't worry about him. Worry about the other guys on this list, but you can't worry about him.
Probably the one that sticks out the most on this list, Roma Dunze, Mav. How do you feel about him rest of season? Panic meter 1 to 10.
Definitely a solid 8. Definitely a solid 8. Again, I've said this for weeks upon weeks upon weeks. The offense finds ways to get it done, and it's credit to Ben Johnson, mate. He has transformed this offense into more than a one-trick pony. They find other ways to win games. If it's not through a Dunze, it's through DJ Moore. If it's not through DJ Moore, it's through Swift or the run game or Loveland or with the Bird. They just find ways, or even Cole Kmet pops up as well. So they have a plethora of options they can go to in the offense. And as creative as Ben Johnson is, finds a way to keep it new and creative. And they're actually the number 1 seed in the NFC, which is crazy to say. The Bears are the number 1 seed. I don't think it'll last, but for now they're number 1 seed. So so I am pretty concerned about Robert Dunze. All in all, it's just because the offense is so creative and it's actually fairly decent. So you can't deny that. So good on him.
Yeah, Ben Johnson, if he doesn't win Coach of the Year, that is an absolute rort. Did you guys see that clip of him in the locker room after that win? Had the shirt off, Ted's gone absolutely wild. You love to see it. First year into Chicago and really flipping things around for those guys. We also had Troy Franklin putting up 6 points on this list, but not too big of a name there. Tight ends, we'll run through these guys pretty quickly. Aronde Gadsden putting up 6 points. He's going to lose 1.6 million. They did not need him in this game. It was all Kamani, Vidal, and Herbert throwing a couple of short touchdowns. Colson Loveland, very tough game up against the Philly Eagles. They've been a top 5 defense to tight ends all year. Darren Waller, first game back with 11 points for the Dolphins. Surprisingly, he actually came back in this week. I thought he was still a couple weeks away. They've got the Bengals coming up in a few weeks' time, so want to circle in traditional fantasy if you are caught in a pinch at tight end. Jake Ferguson, 12 points here. That's probably the biggest name that we have on this list. When CD Lamb was out, Ferg was scoring touchdowns left, right, and center. Now he just hasn't really been able to do anything on a week-to-week basis. Secko, do you think this will continue too for Jake Ferguson? Like, he's lost $800K. Will he just keep losing money to CD and George Pickens for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I would think he would. He was great for a period there. He was moonlighting as a primo option in SuperCoach. He had a run from weeks 2 to 7, 24, 29, 27, 40, 21, 36. That's elite. He hasn't gone over 20 since then, and that corresponds exactly with I think he had one match with Lamb back. That was against the Commanders, who they all went a bit crazy. So it's tough. He's at a price where you can still move him. Again, it's sort of getting into luxury trade territory this time of year. I don't think too many people have sort of 6+ trades, and you still need some injury trades because there's still 5 weeks to go. So you may have to ride with him if you're stuck with that, but definitely a guy who's been trending down for a while, and I don't think it's going to turn around. Their run home is not super easy. It's Detroit, Minnesota, Chargers. Then they get 2 easy ones, 17, 18. Damage might be done by then against the Commanders and Giants. So again, not a necessary trade necessarily, but something you'd want to look to move on if you can.
Kickers, heartbreakers for the week. Chris Boswell for the Steelers. They could not do anything in offense. He scored you 2 points. Tyler Loop absolutely hurt a lot of people this week, myself included. 4 points on the week, just under 50% owned. Mav, how do you feel about him moving forward? I guess it's really a correlation. If Lamar doesn't perform, the Ravens don't really perform and move the chain. So then in turn, Loop is due for a bad week. How do you feel about him moving forward in a kicker?
Oh, look, I'm not too worried about Loop if I'm comparing it. I'll just put it down to opportunity. Wasn't there, so kickers, it is what it is. Mate, I've got Rijkaard and I've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, so I've had 2 DNPs this week. And Rijkaard's actually a really big concern at this point. If we're talking about no McCarthy, and again, we're not rating McCarthy, but God, the option after McCarthy's even worse. So if that's the case, then Rijkaard is, he's definitely in that territory of getting him out, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. And 2 DNPs, Mavin, nearly putting up 530 or projected to. Man, he could have had an absolute monster week there.
Yeah.
Secko, do you have anything to add in there with the kickers? Look like you were.
Yeah, I was. It's I can't see where McCarthy's not back in next week, which is just ridiculous to think about where we were a week ago. But I guess the concussion will magically heal itself, and I think they will realise that. Sorry, it's a real concussion. Sorry, I should. But I'm sure he'll feel fine, and he'll pass all the tests this week that he failed last week. Because it was unmitigated disaster. Like it's not even. JJ McCarthy's horrible. The second worst quarterback in the last 25 years. I think Brosmer's going to just bump Jamarcus Russell up a spot on that list, and he's 823rd now. Because that was just, I watched little bits and pieces, and every time it was him getting sacked or him throwing a pick. That's all I ever saw of him, and he's just not good. It's clear he's not good, and that's fine. They tried it. They'll move on.
Yeah, that pick 6 early on, that was just an absolute gift for that Seattle defender. That was early Christmas present. We'll wait and see, though, with the Vikings. They do have Washington up in week 14 and Dallas and then the Giants. In the next 3-week span, if JJ McCarthy is ever going to do anything, those weeks will help. Defenses, guys that let us down this week and over 4% rostered. The Lions, -2 points, absolutely killed you. The Ravens, hopefully did not start them against the return of Joey Burrow. Packers putting up 6 points as well. That there was plenty of points scored in that game, and the Eagles and Steelers putting up 8 points there. So hopefully you made the right decision if you had two starting defenses, but again, it's hard to pick week in, week out. I mean, the Eagles putting up 8 points against Caleb Williams, I thought they were going to absolutely kill him in that game. So you just can't pick it in the NFL. That'll close out our Heroes and Heartbreakers for week 13 in our review and recovery show every Monday, as per usual. Looking over to close out to week 13, we do have one more game to go. Like I mentioned at the start of the show, the Giants heading to New England to take on the Patriots. Couple of star pieces that we have in this game. Trevion Henderson, Jackson Dart, the return of him after a couple of weeks missed. Drake May, just an absolute starter he is. Tyron Tracy's been emerging. Borogalis, the kicker, and also the defense. I know for me, I've got the New England defense there, so I'm hoping they can do something in this one. Mav, how do you kind of see this game playing out? And do you think May's probably the best chance to top score, or do you have a little Smokey to throw in the mix?
No, I think May's probably definitely the favourite for top score. I hope he goes off for 60, to be honest with you. I need the points. So hopefully he does. But no, Drake May's probably the one. I expect the Patriots to be in full command of this game. Maybe the Giants might keep it a little bit closer early on, but they'll probably fade out a bit late. But no, Drake May's my bet, and I'm going to go Darius Slayton for the second best, just an outsider there. No reason to it, just throwing one out there.
Big Slayton guy. Okay, I like it. We'll wait and see. He could catch a long bomb touchdown from Dart. It'll be one to watch. Secko, how about for you in this game? I know you've got you're a big May guy as well and have him in a few spots. Similar things for you, or do you like to think Henderson might have more of a run in this game compared to last week?
Yeah, I think Henderson's. I know Stevenson's back now. I think this would be a good one to watch. I'm glad it's a standalone game, so we actually watch the split more closely. I think it's Henderson's backfield though, and I have a feeling that against the Giants at home, it might just be an easy little day of it, like we had a few weeks ago when he went absolutely ballistic on. I think it was a Thursday night game. Might have been a Sunday night game. It was a standalone game though, I'm pretty sure, and he went crazy. So I'm expecting that again to some extent. Well, I'm mostly looking forward to Jackson Dart though. Out for a couple of weeks with a real concussion. And just, he was in such hot form. I think he's still the second highest averaging quarterback, maybe second or third in SuperCoach, which is pretty phenomenal considering it's not like he only played 1 or 2 games. He was in there for, I'm going to say 6 or 7 before he went out. 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, he's never scored below 35 in SuperCoach, which, talking about floors, that's elite over 7 games. So yeah, I'm looking forward to him. I think he actually could be a really good chance of being the top scorer, because he runs. And again, that's another one why I'm intrigued, is because he may be told by the coach no more runs. They might not design any more design runs for him. That could really hurt him. But if he does, running quarterbacks, Fields went crazy. He had 70 odd yards and a touchdown a couple of weeks ago, and that's Justin Fields. Very easy to contain him. I know he goes crazy, but they've got no passing attack. This guy can actually do it with his arm as well. So yeah, interested to see. Hopefully for your sake, with your New England DST, he doesn't go too crazy. But yeah, I'm pumped to watch this game, to be honest.
I'll be happy as long as there's plenty of points. Even if the DST shits the bed a bit, I'd just like to see plenty of points scored to close out this week in a standalone game. And before we finish things up here, early look into week 14. Gents, I know for myself, looking at the trades, think it'll be Mahomes to Lamar for me. I just think I've only got 3 trades left, but only 380K in the bank. That's 7 mil or whatnot that I'll make in turn. I can use to really bolster up that lineup to close out the year with those 2 final trades. But we've got plenty of other names there: Justin Jefferson, Saquon, Gadsden. Secko, how do you feel about week 14? Have you had initial thoughts of who you're looking to move out this week?
No, I'm probably not going to make any trades. It depends on what I want to do with CMC. Him on, but he's my only buy guy. So because I moved May last week, so it just depends on how I sort of feel coming into Friday. With what I want to do, I might even just ride with Travion in the slot and save trades, and I've got 4 left, so I might just hold them for the last 4 weeks, and then I can go big the last week if I want to. But I think Jefferson, his price is getting real concern. He's gotten to the point of full concern about that. It's hard to move him without doing 2 trades. Saquon, I think we'll give him another week. He's a potential trade out, but I'm on your side, Mo. You mentioned earlier. Call me stupid, sort of like like Lamar. We're a bit in lockstep there, but he's run home. I know we keep saying run home. We're probably looking like idiots because it's not necessarily going to come through. But his run home is phenomenal. He's got pretty much every defense that you'd want to attack as a running back. In the last 3 weeks, he's got the Commanders, the Bills, Commanders, and then Raiders in week 15 before that. It's probably 3 of the best. I'm going to say 6 running back matchups. So, and it's outdoors. All 4 games are outdoors. So to your point about the snow, it's just one of those things. He might do nothing. He might be past it. His body might be shot after 7,000 touches last year. But if he's any good, he's going to have a massive finish. If I had him, I'd probably hold him. But that's about it. It's a hard trade out week this late in the season.
And Mav, similar thing for you. I know you mentioned maybe it's time to bring in Dak. I know you've got Drake May there. Is that probably where you're going to be looking to in week 14?
Yeah, I'll be watching Travion Henderson very, very closely tomorrow. Due to the fact I've got CMC still. Now, what do I do with CMC? Do I bench him for a week? Do I trade him? Probably more leading to benching at this point in time, just due to Jonathan Taylor being pretty average the last few weeks against good defenses. So, all in all, yeah, just keeping a close eye on that, and then obviously have to fix that Drake May problem next week. Obviously, he's got to go for a QB playing, so I'm probably thinking, Mahomes or Dak, depending on prices. But I still want to fix the Justin Jefferson problem as well. I think that's got to be there's a lot to play out. So I just need to work out what happens tomorrow, and then I can sort of look into the future. I've got 5 trades left. I might even boost. Got 1 boost left. I might even boost to go down to 2 trades. But mate, Amon-Ra St. Brown is also in that same category too. He's out for maybe 1 to 2 weeks. So if he misses anything more than a week, he probably has to go as well. So there's a lot of problems I've got on my team, despite scoring pretty well too. So there's a lot to unpack. I don't need to sit here and actually do it properly because there's unfortunately a lot of problems here. It's not smooth sailing. Just quietly. So
let's do it Wednesday, mate. We'll do it all together Wednesday. We'll have a little Mavs team trade out show.
Yeah, exclusive.
It's going to be a massive show Wednesday for a trade talk show in SuperCoach. And if you guys are struggling as well, trying to decide which way to go through, make sure to join us here at the same time on Wednesday. And for traditional fantasy, the playoffs are upon us. We've got the last week of the regular season. Very, very vital time to make sure you're hitting on these waiver wire picks, and we'll be running that show live tomorrow night to kick things off before waivers run Wednesday afternoon. So, guys, thanks heaps for tuning in on our review and recovery show for Week 13 SuperCoach. Let's hope and pray that we are gifted with a good game tomorrow to close out the week.
Easy. See ya.